Welcome to The Poetry Show with us, the podcast poets. This is a podcast that aims to bring poems and poetic discussion to people who love poetry. And those of you who really aren't all that sure, but you're listening, so thank you. And to poetry novices. And maybe we can inspire you to try a poem for yourself. A word of warning, we might use a couple of edgy words. We are kind of PG-13. Every week, we'll discuss a theme and look at how 4 very different poets work within this theme to create a poem, and hopefully we'll have something for every one of you who are listening. So we'll each do a poem, and we'll chat about that poem or ideas that poem gives us, and we'll move on to the next. I am Rose, and we are here with
Becca Miles
and
Kit Marshall.
Yay, and
Alan Gillott.
Yes. Well, okay. We're trying something a little daring. Today's show is hopeful and positive, so I'm trying not to retch. Anyway, it's about friends. Is this where I break into James Taylor? Don't we all need friends? Do you need friends? Or are they just a necessary evil? They bring you chicken soup and you're not well. Are you the life of the party or the one hunched over in the corner talking to the house cat? Do you have 5,972 close Facebook friends? Or are you happily alone? What does the word friend mean to you? I wrote poems many, many years ago, then I stopped for various reasons. And my poems about friends were really written in the early 1980s. And so these are short, older poems, short and old, like me. One is about myself. One is to a friend who kept setting herself up, and one is to an actual friend at a job I had testing electrical devices who used to hang out with me every day until he didn't. They're actually so short, I'm just going to plunge right through and do them all in a row. And we can even talk about friends or old poems or discovering things and thinking to yourself, I should have deleted this. All right. Looking for a friend. Looking for an old friend, girl I used to know. Sometimes think I've found her, then it just isn't so. She's running round back alleys, getting more lost all the time. And when I see her up ahead, she'll cross the street and hide. Though once, I think I saw her wave. This is to my friend Mary, who used to invite all the people to her family's wealthy house, and they would trash the place, and she was astonished that this would happen. To a friend. When will you stop sacrificing yourself for others? You'll be gone and the party will go on. Can't you see your efforts are painful for you alone? They wander away. Leftovers are uninteresting. Damn, pull it together. They don't care, no matter if whether your loss is their gain. To them it's a game. It's always the same in the end. Why must you be killing yourself for others? Friends of their kind will leave you behind with footprints on your back. And this is from when I worked at a testing place. Hey, you're his friend now. You were once mine too, but suddenly my life no longer interests you. I was a needed person when you didn't know him well, but it's okay. I always seem to work out best alone. Only myself and my thoughts to count on. Sometimes the worry of others is just too much bother. And besides, men always seem to need one another. So that's ancient history. They were actually written on a word processor and saved on floppy disk or written into bits of paper. I had a house fire, and I had a book of about 20 poems, a notebook. And everything in the place, I mean, there was a dress that was just the shoulders of a dress and the hanger, and everything else was gone. And the book of poems was charred at the edges, but was okay. It was really, everything else was just like gone. So I was hauled off with smoke inhalation. And I came back, I was like, you want to see this place? And it was down to the studs. But there was bits and pieces that came out of it. I was shocked. And that survived. I don't know, maybe we should throw them back on the pyre.
Yes, I remember the hours I spent actually trying to recover some of those floppy disks.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That was really very good. Yes, we bonded over IT issues. God, about almost 20 years ago. So you're my friend, Alan, but I don't write about you at all, man. Sorry.
Well, you do occasionally.
Well, I do.
They're not necessarily friend poems.
Yes, not safe for podcasting.
Yes. Well, or also as some of mine are love poems, and those are more appropriate for the subject of love than they are the subject of friendship.
Well, we were discussing we might do a show on frenemies, which would be kind of good, because since most of us are performance poets or are getting into performance poetry more, you end up with people that they are the necessary evils and you have to deal with them. But I will wonder, I will throw it out there. So are we all writers, are we all Are we loners? Do we prefer our own company? Do we like friends? Are we the life of the party? I make Alan go out and talk to people while I'm the one who sits in the corner petting the house cat. Yeah.
Interesting that you should raise that just after talking about performance poetry, because certainly I always considered myself one of those people who has an indoor hobby, a quiet, personal, private hobby, when actually, when I accidentally, as it were, got into performance poetry, suddenly I'm considered someone who's up on stage, someone who's charismatic, and it's quite shocking for me, who always thought of herself as a quiet person and an introvert, to find myself on stage regularly in front of hundreds of people looking at me and being perfectly fine with it.
It's a persona, though. I think performance is a persona. I used to life model, and nudity is a costume. You get up and put it on, or whatever. And so that is what you do. And I think a lot of performers will then get off stage after talking to 5,000 people and scurry off to a corner. I don't know. So would you say you have a lot of friends, though, Kit? Do you think? I mean, people you hang out with on a regular basis.
I think it's quality over quantity.
Yes.
To not put too fine a point on it. The people that I have, I value very closely, but I find that the more friends I make, the more kind of friends end up dropping off the edges.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't hold so many in your hand or something.
Well, I think, though, you also describe what is actually a problem that many celebrities have, is that issue of once you become
no
public,
pressure, though, Kit.
Celebrity.
You mean once you become public, that the public own you, and the public expect to be your friend. They expect you to be their friend. Yet the reality is the people that you really interact with are not. And you have to build a wall. And of course, the thing about walls is they're very hard to cross over. And therefore, once you confine your friends into that wall, then all sorts of other issues start to arise. And that's where they start getting themselves into issues of drugs, deviancy, and other things which they wouldn't do if they didn't have that public life that they had to push away. So it's a very strange combination of how your life is actually defined by others to some extent, by the friends that you have too.
Do you know, that could be, though, also for celebrities, because they're on television or on the radio or probably in films. People think they know them. I mean, there's a TV show and a character has done something awful and he's getting death threats. He's taken to Twitter going, "I'm actually not Eugene. Just so you know, I'm not really this person." And you think, really, get a life, man. Oh my God. So for me, yeah, I think I have friends that I've continued a conversation with my friend Meredith Braxton that I discontinued for 20 years or 30 years because she was off doing stuff and reconnected, and we just started back up again because we met each other at 14. And so I think that those kind of friends are really important too. So I think a friend is someone who you can be yourself with. Absolutely and totally. Even a shitty day, even just you've had a selfish moment, and they don't hate you forever. They just go, "Well, that's okay. That's just her." So I think that's
Because I have a lot of, I suppose, acquaintances, because sort of I one of my major hobbies is necessarily involves knowing a lot of different people. And I can sometimes be kind of refer to people that I don't know very well as sort of, those are my LARP friends, LARP being the hobby.
I love the sound of LARP. I think
I think your distinction is actually a very good one. Is the people that you can really be yourself around. Mm-hmm. And when it actually comes down to that, although I'm sort of friendly with a lot of people, that I'm not friends with a lot of people, and that's sort of always been the case.
Yeah, you could show up to their house and be absolutely fucking selfish, or whatever, or just whatever it is, or do a thing, and they'll go, "Oh, right," and forgive you in a parental way almost, I think.
Yeah, I think I define it in terms of trust. Who do you trust? Who would you trust with your inner secrets?
Ooh,
I mean, and I mean, in the reality, if you have a good marriage or a good relationship, you can trust that person with even the bad things.
He'll put that film online eventually. The reason we're still together, really. I'm only kidding.
I do think it's about trust. And my contribution to today is actually called trust. And I begin, unfortunately, with an acronym.
Oh, all right.
True respect under severe trauma is the tie that binds fellow to fellow, loyalty in battle, support in adversity, safety when not sober. Friendship is not lasting. So, friendship untried is not lasting. Where the foundation of trust is hormonal and betrayal is treason, a true friend's loss devastates, and trust for all is destabilized.
Friends are the people you go camping with for just that bit too long. That's it. I think that's it. Yeah. No, that's good. I think you were just writing that down, weren't you?
No, that was actually last night. It's incomplete. It needs a little work, particularly at the back end. But I was tossed out of the Theatre Royal last night, so I couldn't quite finish it properly.
Boy, you with the pen and paper. Oh dear. Yeah, he comes in. He goes, "I was sort of the Theatre Royal. I was intrigued and said, 'What did you do?'" He said, apparently, he was poemizing in public, and that just can't be.
Not quite the same as being thrown out of a bar, but
I know it's close
really,
though.
no.
Yeah, it's close. So people you can trust, people you can be yourself with, even if it's a hideous moment. Becca, you have a friend poem, but you have a not. I'm curious. I want to hear how this works out.
Right. Well, this is probably not one of my better, as in one of my sort of more technically good poems, but it's a poem that I wrote for a friend, but a friend that I'm very intimate with, and it was essentially about the blurring of the sort of the clear lines of of sort of what is a friend and what is someone that you're romantic with and stuff like that, and how that sort of blurring feels more acceptable nowadays in some ways. I don't know if I'm putting it right, but anyway, it's love, but not as you know it. It's Tinder romance. It's hookup culture. It's the sex revolution of the millennial generation. It's 3 people holding hands walking to the shops. It's want, will, won't, where want and won't are not at war. It's old shapes, new shapes, nameless shapes, but either way it's what we choose. It's not always easy. We're drawing our own maps, we're making our own compasses, we're weaving a harness from trust and respect, and sometimes it breaks. We're all unique in our imperfections. It's a kiss on the cheek between siblings. It's holding hands with an old friend because you both need it. It's sharing a bed, a home, a life, and never seeing each other naked. It's handcrafted romance, it's consent culture, it's the intimacy revolution of any person of any age who is tired of wearing a heart that does not fit.
Yes.
So that's partly about sort of, the rise of polyamory and the different sort of shapes that people feel more comfortable sort of being in romantically, but it's also about the wider shift in attitudes towards intimacy that's behind that. And I say at the beginning it's the sex revolution of the millennial generation, but that's in quotes because it's not a millennial thing. It's seen as a millennial thing,
Well, it's a new thing. I think things are changing, and I think in a very good way. Well, okay, I'm in my 50s, and many years ago, if you were gay, it was not a good thing. You really had to hide it. But Emily comes home from school, back in high school, we're talking 10 years ago or more, and she just casually mentions, well, these 2 girls are in love. I said, are they all right? Do they get beaten up? She goes, oh, God, no one cares, Mom. And I just thought, I said, well, that's fab, because there are these little steps. And I hope we'll do the gender show at some future time. And I got into a debate on a feminist Facebook page, and I had to finally quit and run away. I marched on Washington in 76, children. Anyway, no bitterness. But I had talked about, the third gender and 4 genders, and someone said, well, why are there only 4? Why are there only 5? Why are there only 6? I went, oh, God, okay, I'm done here. But I do think that, because I can't, I don't know. But I do think that the idea that we are not pigeonholed is a good thing. And that, I do like that, because that actually...
that poem is about a friend.
Yes.
Who, we've often sort of had moments of saying, this is kind of weird, because whenever we see each other, we'll sit and we'll hug just for ages. But like, you know, I'm gay, so we always had this kind of this thing of like, are we in a relationship? Are we not? And we've sort of, you know, agreed over the years, no, we're not. We're friends. We just happen to be more intimate than most friends. And I think that kind of that room for that sort of unusual kind of shape, as I put it, it's part of the general shift that's making polyamory more acceptable and stuff like that. That's making asexuality more, you know, known about.
Well, yes, finally there was a play that won a prize about asexuality. It wasn't that the guy was broken, and it wasn't that he was waiting for the right woman or man to come along. It's just like, no, Mom, actually, no, this is actually who I am. This is how I am. And I really liked that. Emily said, she's like, thank God, there's a play about me. So, I think. Would you agree, Alan? That's a trust poem too, in a way.
It is, yes. And interestingly, also, I think you underline another aspect of it is that in many ways, friendship is to a degree sexual. It's about, there are hormonal issues involved, which is referenced. Yes, a friend of mine, well, a long time ago, who had a position of power at one of the UK cathedrals, and he and I were talking about this issue of friendship, and he said, you realise, of course, that it really is a form of sexuality, that understanding, that ability to break down and trust, to share, requires something. And then I thought about it. The human being has got a very small number of pathways by which things work. And it makes complete sense that the same pathways that build relationships also build friendships, so that something of that pathway is being used. You see it in disease. 6 symptoms could be 44 diseases. Yeah,
that's on bones.
Because there are only a limited number of ways in which the human being can respond, and we share, like computer programmers use the same subroutines for many, many different tasks.
That would be the chemistry people have in a film, wouldn't it?
We share the chemistry.
It's chemistry.
And you can have chemistry with people that you want to be friends with, and that's very common. And I think now, because we are exploring different ways that you can have relationships, and I might not call it sexuality, but certainly sensuality, intimacy. And I think certainly in Western culture, we're moving away from the idea that kind of hugging and kissing and hand-holding has to be romantic. And I think that's wonderful to actually brilliant. Have different kinds of relationships, and it benefits, obviously, asexual people and people with non-standard, non-straight.
One of the first things Emily and I loved when we came here is that girls who are just friends can hold hands. In fact, we saw boys holding hands. And in America, they just wouldn't, I think even now, certainly in some small towns.
Yeah, we forget we're primates, and primates touch is an incredibly important part of communication.
Yeah, I think romantic friendships leads us really nicely onto what I've brought today.
Yes.
Which is fabulous, because I wrote a poem about a friend of mine, and for about the first 2 months I knew him, I had a completely hopeless crush on him. And then I kind of realised this wouldn't work, this isn't what I feel. Actually, I just think he's amazing. And I think that kind of friendship crush is what inevitably led to me writing a poem about him, which I've never understood whether or not he's entirely comfortable with certainly the romantic undertones. But it is an ode, and it's an ode to Josh. Sometimes you meet people who are only half human. You are one of them, a Nephilim, a human body with a little bit more inside than the rest of us. I always knew it, even when you shrugged to deflect compliments back into the ether like attacks to your half-hearted self-image. I was sure. I heard your words tonight. Your poetry is as beautiful as I hoped and feared. I longed for clumsiness from you, but you span glass into the room too full of light to show cracks. You are not perfect. Perfection would be wasted on you. Your flaws are beautiful too. Your self-confidence is held together with sellotape, and it has a shine. Perhaps this is what charisma and Irish brogues on your feet and in your throat will do to a man like you. Immune to your own charms, in denial you are dangerous, unmeasured, If I could follow one thread of your tapestry, what story would you unravel into? It still would not be enough of you. You make Tantalus of us all, we can never be full. You're unfair, you cannot be shared so many ways. I adore you, not in a way that makes me want the taste of your lips, but in the wondering of what I could become with more of you. I adore you like a poem, its first inspired draft in scribbles on a bus. This poem. I adore you in a way beyond jealousy and beyond pride, where every new glimmer you reveal, blind to your own light, merely makes me nod and smile and know that I was right about you all along, and you were wrong.
Ooh.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. No, that's good.
It's that kind of crush that well, I'd say has no sexual component. Depends, Alan, what you mean by sexuality. But that follows those same pathways. It's a similar sort of it's a similar kind of fluttering that they are crushes, and it's those kind of things which used to make me think I was bi until I realized that I couldn't in any way picture being with any of the guys that made me feel that way physically. But I still have friendships. I have people that I meet in LARP that was LARP as live action role play, so it has people sort of playing roles, and there are people that I meet that I'm just amazed at their ability to like make these characters and to embody them in all these different sort of ways, and I get crushes on them. I call them my LARP crushes, and I'm not the only person.
You know, it's almost like then the friendship you get, it could be a lover that walks into the room and your heart beats faster, but it could be the friend then, couldn't it be? Yeah. And you're just like, you know, oh God, she's here, that's fantastic. That sort of thing.
And it can be terribly confusing, of course. It causes you to second guess yourself, especially.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's why I refer and discuss that friendship is often created out of adversity, because as a group of people work together to fight against a common goal, there is this coalescing of, and it's back to trust, that you know what the other person will do in this circumstance.
You mean the band of brothers in war type thing too?
Yes. I'm trying to be very careful because it's not necessarily men. And it's very easy
that's true.
when talking about adversity to focus on the masculinity, but it's not, because if you think in terms of where humans have come from, we've come from small teams of men and women who had roles, and you had to trust that the other person would play the role in the tribe or the family that they were there for. If there was adversity, if you were attacked by a bear, you had to do the right things, and everybody had to respond in the right way in order for the whole to survive. And I think that this coalesces because, yes, you do get in combat those relationships which last forever. I mean, very often people can go back in times of adversity. You know, they're being attacked by somebody that they know. You know, something has gone wrong in their lives, and they can go back to, if you like, to their band of brothers, and they will come back and help them. You see this, you know, Marines will come to help Marines, and
most of the Law and Order episodes are about that too. I think.
Yes, and it is naturally. It is that positioning that says, one of my friends, a friend that you may not have seen for years, is in trouble, and you drop everything and go to help them. So friendship doesn't require constant
No, it doesn't. True
intimacy,
friendship. No.
but it does require that trust.
Or that chemistry.
And
the chemistry.
Yeah, that's also a component of the friendship that I was writing about in this poem. Like we don't talk to each other very often. But when we do see each other, there'll be this outpouring of everything that's been happening, and you know, in our cases, it's not so much it's not so much a physical war as much as it is a battle with various sort of mental health problems, which kind of so many of my friendships have been born from sort of this. And that actually goes back to what Rose was saying: this honesty, this authenticity,
and the empathy as well.
Exactly.
And empathy. True. Yes, actually.
Yes. I mean, certainly in LARPing, you're creating, if you like, a false adversary. But in so doing, you're creating the circumstances in which those friendships and relationships and trust is developed.
That's true.
And of course, having it as a joint project as well, it doesn't necessarily have to be adversity, but certainly working together on something does lead to that trust.
I think so. Well, all right. You listeners, are you our friends? Will you be our friend? I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I know Becca's making a gagging. That's cool. I'm having fun.
No, I'm laughing because you're being whimsical.
No, I know. Listen, she says determinedly, I decided to view it as whimsy. All right. No, I tell you what, we've talked about friends today, and you could send us your ideas, and we will do our very best to write something to it. I've seen Lawrence and Alan repeatedly now sit there and write a poem during a show, which has always amazed me. Right, so you know what? You can get involved. Send us ideas for themes or topics that you would like to hear us discuss. So come back next time when we might very well be discussing the red tent, or stubbornness, or climate change, or gender. We have been The Poetry Show, and we are the Podcast Poets. So tweet to us on Twitter at @podcastpoets. Email us at podcast@podpoets.com. And find us on iTunes and give us reviews and ratings. This has been The Poetry Show, produced and edited by Adam Tagliatti as a production of Eden Agency.